Man Up, a program dedicated to inspiring and helping men live lives of heroic virtue. And now, it's time to man up.
Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. We are broadcasting on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network. I am Joe Stopulos, and I'm excited today to have on Daniel Kerr and Adam Taylor from St. Martin's Academy in Fort Scott, Kansas, to discuss the great work of St. Martin's Academy, the philosophy behind it, and what we can learn as we're raising our boys, and what we can learn about the communities around us through the work that they're doing there. Let us start in prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, if you're a follower of the podcast, you know that I had Daniel Kerr. I replayed a talk he gave months ago to our school at St. Thomas Classical Academy about raising good, strong Catholic boys. A lot of that was the philosophy behind what they're doing at St. Martin's, and I was so excited about it, and the things that they were talking about, that on our trip recently down to Clear Creek Abbey with some friends of ours to go camping, we stopped there. It's right off the road, right off the highway there, and so we stopped in, and Adam Taylor, who's the guest on the show today, was nice enough to give us a tour. We were probably there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we talked, the philosophy of what they're doing with these young men. And I'm so excited about what they're doing. It's only for 60 kids. It's all they can fit. It should be for all. It feels like it should be for all kids. A lot of the things that they're doing there, I think we would all benefit from instilling these values and these virtues into our lives in some way, shape, or form. And so I wanted to have both these guys on the show today to just talk further about it, talk further about how it came to be and why it is important to have a school like St. Martin's around, and why we need to have more of this in the culture today. So stick around. We're going to head to a short break, and when we return, I will have on Daniel Kerr and Adam Taylor from St. Martin's Academy.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by CTO. Your support has helped thousands of students attend our Catholic schools. CTOIowa.org. At CTO, the bottom line, it's for the kids and their future. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Ashworth Vision Clinic. Complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. 515-440-4610. AshworthVision.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Dental Associates, addressing your smile needs and dreams. 515-225-6742. Des Moines-DentalAssociates.com. Thank you, Dental Associates, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by Mary's Cleaning Care. Mary's Cleaning Care cleans everything from residential to commercial in Des Moines and surrounding areas. Mary'sCleaningCare.com. Thank you, Mary's Cleaning Care, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through.
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. Excited today to be joined by two men from St. Martin's Academy. This is Adam Taylor and Daniel Kerr. Daniel Kerr, you may remember, I basically stole your talk that you gave to my school, St. Thomas Classical Academy in Des Moines, and posted it. So many of our listeners are going to be familiar with your work, but welcome to the show. Wanted to dive deeper into what you guys are doing down there at St. Martin's.
Great. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, yeah, you bet. Adam, thank you for the tour, man. So my listeners know I went down to Clear Creek Abbey. I've mentioned a little bit about that. And on the way, we actually did a quick detour, reached out to you guys, and had the opportunity to see the grounds there at St. Martin's. And you were kind enough to give us, guys, we were probably there an hour and a half, I bet, man. It was probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was solid. So thanks for the walk around, and definitely gave us a new perspective. Like, once you see the grounds and see what's going on there, you can see the kind of the magic of what we had heard from Daniel's talk of what goes on at St. Martin. So I want to start this conversation. Really, the way I want to see this going is, you guys have this really special thing going down there in Kansas. You had a really special thing going on, and I want to know how it even started. What are the genesis of it? Why is it important? Why do we need stuff like this? I know you hit on a little bit of this, Daniel, when you spoke, but let's go way back. Let's do a quick overview of what the school is. How many kids, all that stuff. And then where's your first experience into getting into this kind of education?
Yeah. So just to kind of, the wave top here of where things stand at the moment. We are heading into our 5th year, and St. Martin's is a Catholic all boys boarding school that combines what one could loosely call kind of a classical approach to academics with a working farm. So it is, I would characterize it as Benedictine in the dispensation of ora et labora, that is prayer and work and study. Heading into year 5 now, and we'll have an enrollment of around 60 to 65 this coming fall. That's 9th through 12th grade. And that's about as large as we'll ever get. We've designed our campus to really, actually for 60 students total. It's demand for enrollment has been brisk.
I was going to say, where are you sticking those extra 5 guys? I was always told 60.
We've got a pretty good sized chicken coop, and they're going to be the chicken prefects, and the best way to do that is just to be really there on the ground with birds, So, it's going to work out great.
That's what I'm talking about. That'll help build character in a big way. Let's go.
Absolutely. So that's where things stand. So we're going to be just a little north of 60 this year. And as far as the genesis of this place goes, I mean, in a way, it goes back to when I was just a little boy here in Fort Scott. This is where I'm from. I was born and raised here in Fort Scott, Kansas. We're in the kind of the southeast corner of the state, right on about 5 miles from the Missouri border. And I was born and raised here, and a cadre of recent graduates from the University of Kansas, and a program in particular called the Integrated Humanities Program, happened to descend upon Fort Scott because a couple of the IHP grads were originally from Fort Scott. And they, with the help of some folks here in town, including my father, got the little parochial grade school going here again. It had been shut down for 10 or 15 years, and they resuscitated St. Mary's Grade School. And so as a young boy, I was attending St. Mary's, and it was led by graduates from this program at the University of Kansas, who I think have a very kind of particular vision for education, and there's this sort of pedagogical a pedagogical vision that they have, that they brought to the school. So from the time I was just a little kid, that had been doing its work on me. And I went to a boarding school. Jumping ahead just a little bit, I went to a boarding school in Northeast Pennsylvania called it's now called Gregory the Great Academy. At the time, it was called St. Gregory's Academy. And that was a life-changing period of time in my life. I was actually went as a junior, so I wasn't there but 2 years, but it was a life-changing time for me. And really, as soon as I graduated, it was in my mind that we needed another school like that. And being a lover of the Midwest and the prairie and my kind of native land here, I had aspirations of doing something in this area, whether it was maybe near Clear Creek or closer to home. And so that was on kind of the back burner for 15 plus years. And there were many conversations and kind of initial forays into, feasibility studies. That sounds formal, like we knew what we were doing. We didn't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we were kind of, testing the water, gauging the temperature a little bit.
What were you doing at the time? Like for employment, what were you doing?
Well, So after I graduated, I kind of took the scenic route through college. I went to University of Chicago, Thomas Aquinas College in California for 2 years. And then I transferred to the University of Dallas, and that's where I graduated from in
A
2000.
tour of like some of the best schools in the country. That's good. So you got a good background on
Yeah,
all the good ones.
and I'm actually thankful. I mean, at the time it seemed unplanned and a bit chaotic, but in hindsight, I'm really grateful that I attended those three different schools, because they have each, especially TAC and UD, have a really cohesive pedagogical vision, especially at TAC. I mean, they have a very unified approach, and their curriculum is very impressive. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to go there. As far as employment goes, it's well, let me, you were down at Clear Creek recently, and Clear Creek's been, here in the United States for, I would
22?
say, about 22 or 23 years. Yeah, that's right. Actually, I first met Father Bethel, who's the prior, and Abbot Anderson, and some of the other monks who were there. I first met them at Fougambeau, which is the Benedictine Abbey in the middle of France. We're actually heading there with our seniors in about a month.
Amazing.
For their opening trip, the seniors. Awesome. But there was and I'm maybe telling more of the story than you want to hear, but there was a movement to start a school just a couple of years after Clear Creek got going, and it was going to be down there in Oklahoma, and there was a lot of momentum for it. And I was just a young fellow at the time, maybe 22 or 3 years old. I just graduated, or was getting ready to graduate from UD. And I was absolutely gung-ho about being a part of getting that school going. And for a variety of reasons, probably most of which I don't understand, because I didn't have the proper perspective at the time, it didn't quite get off the ground. But I remember at the time being a bit frustrated, because I was this young guy with a lot of energy, but I really didn't have any resources or experience or anything significant to contribute to the effort to get this school going, other than just youthful enthusiasm. And I remember praying and asking God to direct my life in such a way that if I could be of help in starting a school sometime down the road, please order my life in such a way, because it felt like maybe part of what was needed was some practical experience, some kind of not just being able to cast the vision, but being able to kind of execute and do the kind of the groundwork and the stuff that's really not very much fun. Going through some of the bureaucratic red tape and compliance and issues like that it takes to get a school going off the ground, dealing with fire marshals, these sorts of realities that no one ever wants to talk about as you're sitting there late at night sipping on bourbon. You don't want to talk about that stuff. That's not a lot of fun, but unfortunately it's got to be done. So I remember just thinking, if I could get some experience so that I could be of actual help here, because I felt like I didn't have much to offer to the project. And so that was my prayer. And I think God, in his own good time and in his own way, answered that prayer more powerfully than I could have imagined. I got involved in basically a startup business in Florida, and then in Texas in the insurance sector. Very niche, something I didn't even, a kind of line of work I wasn't even aware of. Training and licensing and doing certification for professionals in the claims industry.
Hey, listen, I work in an insurance brokerage. Are you telling me that someday I might be the headmaster of a
You're darn right. Absolutely. In fact, that you're on the
I'm on the track.
You're on the track, man.
And I just read John Senior. I just read the Restoration of Christian Culture, so I feel like I'm almost equipped. I'm almost there.
You are there.
I got an insurance license, and I've read a book. I'm halfway at least.
You got it. Yeah, you got it.
So, well, actually, let's. I was going to say real quick, with time, I want to get to the Integrated Humanities program at Kansas. That's a lot of the work of John Senior, who my listeners are about to get a crash course in John Senior, as I am on I don't know. I'm obsessed right now. When I was down there in Clear Creek, I bought every single one of the books they had on him. So I'm in the middle of just crash coursing through them. And I have a lot of friends that are huge fans of his. Can you briefly, explain his vision of education, how to reclaim education, and then how that maybe led to what you guys are doing at St. Martin's?
Yeah, you bet. So, Dr. Senior, was part of this program, the Integrated Humanities program at KU, with two other professors. And those professors, I think, are often forgotten just because they didn't publish any works that really have gotten as much traction as Dr. Senior's books, The Death of Christian Culture and The Restoration of Christian Culture. But there was Dennis Quinn and then Frank Nellick, and the three professors together really built that program. And the best book, by the way, and you probably picked this up when you were down at Clear Creek, the best book to read if you just want to know about John Senior and the Integrated Humanities program is Father Bethel's book, which is called The Restoration of Realism.
Yep.
John Senior and the Restoration of Realism. It was published a few years ago, and it's, I think, just absolutely magnificent. If you have any interest in Dr. Senior and the IHP, that is the book. But they weren't, this is in the 70s during the throes of the hippie revolution, and they're not proselytizing, they're not advertising as Catholics, and yet they converted at a public university at a very tumultuous time. If I would say hundreds,
several hundreds at least.
Yeah, hundreds of people, came to the faith, and what they were doing is they were just reading the great works of Western civilization and having the perennial conversations that have been had for the last 2,000 plus years, and they were doing so with, I think, an attitude of respect and reverence, not the spirit of kind of criticism and looking down upon these works as sort of, historical relics that we're going to analyze and pick apart, but really seeking the truth through these works and having a conversation. And indeed, the format of the IHP frequently looked like the three professors sitting together in the classroom having a conversation, and the students were just simply eavesdropping in on this conversation, right? So it wasn't really lecture. It wasn't the seminar style or the Socratic method of that you find at TAC. It was different. It was three friends having a conversation about the good life. And
so would that look like what it's at St. Martin's? Is that similar to what you guys do?
We actually do a fair amount of co-teaching. Yes, we do. And we are doing it more and more because it works very well.
I will say, judging by the library I saw, you guys have no shortage of great books. It is an impressive library you have there for the boys to be able to read, because it's almost every single classic I could possibly think of, and then obviously multitudes more were available there. So a very impressive library you guys have put together in a short amount of time.
very, very generous donations early days and along the way by quite a few people contributed to that library for sure. But yeah.
Not only the great books, but the good books.
Exactly.
And that was something that Dr. Senior stressed, is that, before you read the great books, the really heavy hitting books, you better start with the good books. And so our library hopefully has a lot of both. But we read the good books, we read some of the great books, and we try to, as a faculty, have that kind of ongoing conversation, not just in the classroom, but at the lunch table, at the dinner table, that the boys are picking up on and again, kind of eavesdropping on. And we're bringing them into that perennial conversation. Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot more to say about the poetic and the gymnastic mode of education, which Dr. Senior, Dr. Quinn, and Dr. Nellick were passionate about. And look, they didn't invent this, of course. This just goes back to Plato and Aristotle. This is the kind of the classical approach to pedagogy, where you start with the senses, and you learn through engagement of the senses, developing the imagination, both through sensory experience and direct contact with reality, and then, of course, the great stories of Western civilization. And you build up the imagination, and you build up experience through contact with those great stories, and through contact with the other books, which are the books of creation, and in the beauty of God's created world. So they didn't come up with this; they just became champions of it at a time where, and we're still in a day and age where that approach to education is very foreign to us. We tend to think of education and a curriculum and academics as largely abstract mental work that's done sedentary, you sit down, you're at a desk, you open up your book, and you start doing, and say biology, you start, starting with, these kinds of abstractions as you're going through a biology textbook. Whereas the poetic and gymnastic mode of, say, studying biology would be to engage the study of life by encountering life as we naturally encounter it, which is as wholes, as integrated wholes that are living and moving. And let's start there rather than starting with, an abstraction like, a mitochondria and the production of ATPs. Yeah. So,
well, we had a short break real quick, but before I do, I want to put a real quick bow on this. I was asked when I was at the Abbey, they said, why, there's this resurgence in people wanting to know about John Sr. And they're curious. I wonder why that is. And I said, well, I think it's because the stuff he was saying in the 1960s or 70s and 80s was at the time pretty countercultural and revolutionary. And now the predictions he's made have all come true. And so we're kind of reading this now with the benefit of hindsight. And so I think you guys putting this to practice today at St. Martin's is just a response to the fact that clearly what he's been saying, the problems that they had back in the 70s are still there, but they're exacerbated and they're worse today. And you guys have come up with a solution to help mitigate that. So we're headed to a short break. I'd love to have you guys on for the final 2 minutes while we wrap up the conversation on what you guys are doing at St. Martin's.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
St. Vincent de Paul helps so many people.
You're right, Zoe. St. Vincent de Paul Executive Director Steve Havman here. We are serving over 32,000 local residents with food, clothing, furniture, and financial assistance annually. We invite you to learn more about all of our life-changing programs that positively impact so many Iowans by simply Googling St. Vincent de Paul of Des Moines. Our mission is to help those in need become self-sufficient through education, community connectedness, and unconditional support. Help us, help others.
Even kids!
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through.
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. I am here with Daniel Kerr and Adam Taylor, and we are talking about St. Martin's Academy, John Senior Integrated Humanities Program. And guys, we have about 2 minutes left, and I want to just get your thoughts. We talked about this when we were down there, Adam, but this importance of detachment from technology, specifically, obviously, with these teenagers. Why is that so important in what you guys are doing at St. Martin's?
Yeah, Joe, it's a great question. And I think if I could sum it up quickly and then expound on it, but quickly it would be that so much of what technology does today and increasingly is doing is divorcing our children from reality, increasingly divorcing and separating them from reality, because they more and more often now live in a world that is digital, it is abstract, it is fake, and also highly addictive, with the promise that they can do whatever they want, be whatever they want, this quote, freedom. And it's pernicious. And it also appeals at their biological level. We're talking endorphins and all the rest. And so it's highly addictive. And so, as John Sr. talks about, is written about with other folks, as Dan talked about earlier, the first thing we've got to do with our boys is get them in touch with reality, with God's created reality. And there's no faster way to put up a blocker to them getting there than to have devices and technology, because that's their job, is to abstract the world away from us into ones and zeros and to images especially. And so by making that break with the boys, they very quickly have no choice but to engage in reality. It's a function of their day. And even those that come that you can kind of tell have a little bit of a, sort of not addiction, but at least are used to technology. They don't miss it very much after a couple weeks.
No, they get over it quickly.
Yeah. They get and fall in love with the animals. They fall in love with nature. They fall in love with the liturgy and the sky and music and companionship and sport and the gymnastics of the school. And it kind of fades into the background.
Go ahead.
No, I just to add to that super quickly, I think the imagination is a faculty. That means it's a power. And we don't have we've lost that power because we've outsourced our imaginations. Yeah. We've outsourced our imaginations to the entertainment industry, et cetera. And we've got to reclaim that power. The imagination is a key part of what having an imagination is key to being a whole human being. So,
well, I think I'm hearing so much more about this now in just mainstream stuff that I'm hearing about, especially in Catholic circles. So I think you guys are ahead of the time. I think you guys are going to be the model for a lot of stuff going forward. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for the work you guys are doing. I'm going to need to have you guys on again because there's so much more we need to cover. But it was good hearing your guys' voices again.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much. And I got to give a quick plug if I can, Joe. Adam's father literally wrote the book on poetic knowledge. It's called Poetic Knowledge. He studied with Dr. Senior at KU, and I would just highly recommend that book to you and to your listeners. Poetic Knowledge by Dr. James Taylor.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining me today on Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. I am Joe Stopulos. It's time to man up.
Man Up, inspiring men to live out their call to holiness.